Commander Tarvin stood at the observation window of Coalition Station Prime and watched the human ships arrive. They were smaller than he expected. 3 vessels moved through the darkness of space with careful precision, their hulls painted in white and gray colors. After 17 campaigns and 4,000 years of Quellan military tradition, Tarvin thought he had seen every kind of warrior in the galaxy. These humans would be something new. The war against the Vakthor swarm had been going badly. 3 years of fighting, 12 systems lost, and millions dead. The insectoid creatures consumed everything in their path. They did not negotiate. They did not retreat. They only ate and bred, and spread across the stars like a disease. The Coalition needed every ally they could find, even these strange creatures from a world called Earth. Tarvin's second officer approached from behind. "The humans are requesting permission to dock, Commander." "Grant it," Tarvin said. He kept watching the ships. They looked fragile compared to Quellan warships. No heavy armor plating, no visible weapon arrays that could match Coalition firepower. He wondered if bringing them here was a mistake. The docking process took an hour. When it finished, Tarvin made his way to the station's main hangar. He wanted to see these humans with his own eyes. He wanted to know what kind of soldiers they would send to fight the Vakthor. The hangar doors opened with a hiss of air pressure. The human soldiers walked out in formation, their boots making rhythmic sounds on the metal floor. They wore combat armor that looked thin and flexible. Their weapons were compact, held across their chests with practiced ease. Tarvin counted about 50 soldiers in the first group. At the front walked a man in an officer's uniform. He had dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. He stopped 3 meters from Tarvin and offered a salute. "Commander Tarvin, I am Captain J1 of Earth's Stellar Defense Force. Thank you for having us." Tarvin returned the salute. "Captain, welcome to Coalition Station Prime." He studied J1 carefully. The human was smaller than a Quellan warrior, standing only about 1.8 meters tall. His skin looked soft, with no natural armor or thick hide. No claws. No fangs. No biological weapons at all. Tarvin had fought beside warriors from 20 different species. Most of them had some natural advantage. Strength or speed or regeneration. These humans looked ordinary. "My ground commander will lead the briefing," J1 said. He gestured to a woman who stepped forward. "This is Major Hana." Hana was even smaller than the captain, but something in her eyes made Tarvin pause. They were dark and sharp, constantly moving, calculating. She looked at the hangar layout, the guard positions, the exit routes, all of this in just a few seconds. She nodded at Tarvin but said nothing. Behind her stood a stocky man with a square jaw and scarred knuckles. "Sergeant Tae Min," J1 introduced. "My senior enlisted advisor." Tae Min's face was expressionless. He held his rifle with the easy grip of someone who had used it many times. The scars on his hands were old, but deep. Whatever had made those marks had hurt him badly, and he had survived. "We should discuss the mission," Tarvin said. He led the humans to a briefing room down the corridor. His own officers were already there, waiting. They looked at the humans with curiosity and barely hidden doubt. The briefing room had a large holographic display in the center. Tarvin activated it, and a 3-dimensional image of a planet appeared. "This is Praxis 4, a mining colony in the outer reaches. Population, 40,000 civilians. 2 days ago, a Vakthor hive ship entered the system." The image changed to show a massive organic vessel, all chitin and exposed flesh, covered in weapons and spawning chambers. Red dots appeared around the planet, each one representing thousands of Vakthor warriors. "The hive ship is preparing to spawn a new wave," Tarvin continued. "If it succeeds, they will overrun 6 more systems within a month. We must destroy it now." Major Hana leaned forward. "What about the civilians on the planet?" "They are trapped," Tarvin said. "We sent evacuation ships, but the Vakthor have already landed ground forces. The civilians are hiding in underground shelters. We estimate there are 15,000 Vakthor warriors on the surface." "Estimate?" Hana asked. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Yes, our reconnaissance is limited. It could be more." She nodded slowly. What is the Coalition's plan? Tarvin pulled up the tactical display. My strike force will assault the hive ship directly. We have the firepower to destroy it. But we need time. The ground forces will keep the Vakthor busy while we work. Then we evacuate whoever is left. Whoever is left. Hana repeated. She looked at Jaewon. The captain's face showed nothing. How many ground forces does the Coalition have? Taemin asked. We can spare 800 soldiers, Tarvin said. Your forces. The room went quiet. Tarvin's officers shifted uncomfortably. 800 soldiers against 15,000 Vakthor was not a battle. It was a death sentence. Everyone knew it. Hana pulled out a small datapad and began typing. How long do you need to destroy the hive ship? 6 hours, Tarvin said. Maybe 7. And how long to evacuate 40,000 civilians? Tarvin hesitated. 12 hours. Maybe more. Hana stopped typing. She looked up at him with those calculating eyes. So you need us to hold for 12 hours against 15,000 Vakthor warriors. With 800 soldiers. Yes. She looked back at her datapad. Her fingers moved across the screen, pulling up information, running calculations. After a full minute, she spoke. We will need detailed maps of the colony. Every building, every tunnel, every power junction. I want to know where the water mains run and where the fuel depots are located. I want geological surveys and atmospheric data. I want to know everything. Tarvin blinked. You accept the mission? We are here to fight, Hana said simply. Give me the information I need to do it well. Captain Jaewon stood. My ships will provide orbital support where possible. Major Hana will handle ground operations. When do we deploy? 18 hours, Tarvin said. We need time to position our fleet. Good. My soldiers need rest before combat. Jaewon saluted again. We will be ready, Commander. The humans filed out of the briefing room. Tarvin watched them go. His second officer stepped beside him, speaking in their own language. They are fools. They will all die down there. Perhaps, Tarvin said. But he kept thinking about Major Hana's questions. She had not asked about honor or glory. She had asked about water mains and fuel depots. She had asked for geological surveys. These were the questions of someone planning a battle, not accepting a glorious death. Over the next 18 hours, Tarvin watched the humans prepare. They did not boast or celebrate. They checked their weapons, studied the maps, ran through their equipment again and again. Hana gathered her officers and spoke to them in low voices, pointing at displays and diagrams. They nodded and asked questions and took notes. Tarvin found himself in the observation window again, watching the final preparations. The human dropships were being loaded with ammunition, medical supplies, and thousands of other items. The soldiers moved with purpose. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Sergeant Taemin walked past carrying a heavy equipment case. He noticed Tarvin watching and stopped. For a moment, the two soldiers looked at each other. Then Taemin spoke in rough but understandable Coalition standard. We will hold the line, Commander. You destroy that ship. You understand the odds? Tarvin asked. Yes. And you are not afraid? Taemin shifted the case to his other shoulder. Fear is normal. But those people down there need us. So we go. He walked away before Tarvin could respond. The Quellan commander stood alone at the window, thinking about those words. Those people down there need us. So we go. It was simple. Direct. No philosophy or grand strategy. Just duty. The fleet deployed on schedule. Tarvin's warships moved into position around the hive ship. The human dropships fell toward Praxis 4 like metal rain. Through his command console, Tarvin watched them descend through the atmosphere, trailing fire and smoke. The battle was about to begin. Tarvin had fought in 17 campaigns. He had won 14 of them. But something about this felt different. These humans with their soft skin and simple weapons were heading into certain death, and they acted like it was just another day of work. He pulled up the communication channel to Major Hana. Ground forces. This is Fleet Command. You are cleared for landing. Good luck. Hana's voice came back steady and calm. Copy that. Fleet Command. We will see you in 12 hours. 12 hours. Tarvin hoped they would survive even 3. The dropships disappeared into the clouds below, and the commander turned his attention to the hive ship ahead. He had his own battle to fight, but part of him would keep watching those humans on the ground. He wanted to see what they would do when the impossible came for them. He wanted to know if their calm confidence was courage or ignorance. He would learn the answer soon enough. The dropships hit atmosphere like hammers striking metal. Inside the lead craft, Major Hannah gripped her restraint harness and watched the temperature readings climb. The hull glowed red-hot as they punched through the clouds. Around her, 80 soldiers sat in silence, checking weapons and equipment one final time. The colony appeared through the viewport. Praxis 4 had been a successful mining operation once. Now, smoke rose from dozens of fires. Vakthor warriors swarmed through the streets like insects, their chittering calls echoing even through the ship's thick walls. 60 seconds to touchdown, the pilot announced. Hana opened the tactical channel. All units. This is ground command. Land in formation Delta 3. Establish perimeter immediately. No heroics. We have 12 hours. Make them count. The dropship slammed into the ground in the colony's industrial sector. The landing ramps dropped before the engines finished cooling. Hana ran out with her rifle raised, her soldiers flowing around her like water. The industrial sector was a maze of warehouses, refineries, and storage tanks. Good for defense, if used correctly. Hana had studied the maps for 18 hours straight. She knew every corner, every building, every possible firing position. Squads 1 through 4. Take the eastern perimeter. 5 through 8. Secure the refinery complex. 9 and 10. Establish the command post in the administration building. She spoke quickly but clearly. Her soldiers moved without hesitation, spreading out across the sector. Sergeant Tae-min appeared at her side, his rifle scanning the shadows. Civilians? Underground shelters, 3 kilometers north. We need to clear a path. Understood. The first Vakthor appeared within 3 minutes. They came from the north in a scattered group, maybe 30 of them. The creatures stood 2 meters tall on 4 legs, with blade-like arms and armored shells. Their eyes were black and empty. They saw the humans and charged. Hana's rifle barked 3 times. 3 Vakthor fell. Around her, 50 more rifles opened fire. The sound was deafening. Bullets tore through chitin and flesh. The Vakthor kept coming, but they were dying faster than they could advance. Conserve ammunition, Hana ordered. Controlled bursts. Make every shot count. The Vakthor wave broke against the human firing line and scattered. Bodies lay twisted in the street. A few injured creatures tried to crawl away. Human soldiers finished them with single shots. Aboard his ship, Commander Tarvin watched the engagement through drone feeds. He saw the humans form their firing lines with mechanical precision. He saw them drop 30 Vakthor in under a minute, but what struck him most was their silence. No battle cries. No shouts. They just aimed and fired and moved to the next target. Interesting, his second officer said. They are efficient. Too early to judge, Tarvin replied. But he was thinking the same thing. On the ground, Hana established her command post in a reinforced building. Displays showed tactical data from across the sector. Reports came in from squad leaders. So far, no casualties. 400 Vakthor eliminated. Major. A young soldier approached. Private Dong-hyun. Barely 20 years old. The northern tunnel is the best route to the civilian shelters. But it is full of them. Hana looked at the map. The tunnel was 2 kilometers long and 3 meters wide. A perfect choke point, if someone held it. How many Vakthor? Scouts counted maybe 200 inside. More coming. Can we collapse it? Not without trapping the civilians on the other side. Hana studied the display. They needed that tunnel. Get me a volunteer team. 6 soldiers, heavy weapons. Dong-hyun straightened. I will lead it, Major. She looked at him. He was young and nervous, but his hands were steady. You understand what I am asking? Yes, ma'am. Hold the tunnel until the path is clear. It might take hours. Then we hold for hours. Hana nodded. Pick your team. Move in 10 minutes. Dong-hyun saluted and left. Hana watched him go and felt something cold in her chest. She was sending 6 people into a tunnel against hundreds of enemies. They might all die, but those civilians needed a way out, and this was the only path. 10 minutes later, Dong-hyun and his team entered the tunnel. They carried extra ammunition, 3 machine guns, and enough explosives to bring down a building. Their orders were simple. Hold the tunnel, kill anything that moves, stay alive as long as possible. Tarvin watched them through a drone that followed them inside. The tunnel was dark and wet, lit only by the humans' weapon lights. Water dripped from the ceiling. The sound of Vakthor movement echoed from deeper inside. The team found a natural bottleneck 50 meters in. They set up firing positions behind mining equipment and stacked supply crates. Dong-hyun placed his machine gun on a tripod and loaded a belt of ammunition. His hands moved fast and sure. Contact, someone whispered. The Vakthor came from the darkness like a flood. They filled the tunnel from wall to wall, climbing over each other in their frenzy to reach the humans. Their screams were deafening in the enclosed space. Dong-hyun opened fire. The machine gun roared, spitting bullets at 3,000 rounds per minute. The tunnel lit up with muzzle flash. Vakthor bodies tumbled and fell and were trampled by those behind them. The other 5 soldiers fired in controlled bursts, picking off any creature that got too close. For 6 minutes, they held. 6 minutes of continuous fire. Dong-hyun's first machine gun overheated and seized. He dropped it and grabbed another. Bullets ricocheted off the tunnel walls. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burned propellant and alien blood. A Vakthor warrior broke through the line. It leaped over the barricade and crashed into one of the soldiers. They went down together, the soldier screaming as blade arms rose and fell. Dong-hyun dropped his machine gun and pulled his sidearm. 3 shots at point-blank range. The Vakthor collapsed. The wounded soldier was alive but bleeding badly. Keep firing! Dong-hyun shouted. He grabbed the 3rd machine gun. The last one they had. More Vakthor came. The pile of bodies was now 3 meters high, but they kept climbing over it. Dong-hyun fired until his 3rd gun ran empty. He dropped it and picked up his rifle. Then, a shotgun. Then grenades, throwing them into the massive creatures. We are out of ammunition, someone yelled. Dong-hyun looked at the explosives they had brought. Enough to collapse the tunnel. Enough to kill everything inside, including them. He grabbed the detonator. Get back, he ordered his team. Run, now. We are not leaving you, one soldier said. I am not asking. Run. They hesitated. Then they grabbed their wounded and ran back toward the entrance. Dong-hyun waited until they were out of the blast radius. He set the timer for 30 seconds. Then he dropped the detonator and ran after his team. The tunnel exploded behind him. The blast wave picked him up and threw him forward. The ceiling came down in a roar of rock and dust. Everything went dark. When he woke up, he was buried under rubble. He could not move his legs. Something heavy pressed on his chest. He heard voices above, human voices, shouting his name. They were digging him out. After 5 minutes, they pulled him free. He was bleeding from a dozen cuts, and his right arm was broken. But he was alive. So was his entire team. The tunnel? He asked. Collapsed, his sergeant said. Nothing is getting through there now. Good. Dong-hyun tried to stand. His legs would not work properly, but he stayed upright through sheer will. You need medical attention. I need a rifle. We still have a job to do. Commander Tarvin had watched the entire thing. He replayed the footage 3 times, trying to understand. The human had held a tunnel against 200 Vakthor for 6 minutes. He had used 4 different weapons as each one failed or ran empty. And when he had no more ammunition, he had collapsed the tunnel himself and survived. Impressive, his second officer admitted. Yes, Tarvin said. But impressive did not capture it. The human had been calculating the entire time, every weapon choice, every position adjustment, every decision made to maximize enemy casualties. Even the final explosion was timed to save his team while completing the objective. On the ground, Major Hana received the report. Tunnel collapsed. But pathway to civilians is clear through the service corridors. We can begin evacuation. Casualties? She asked. One wounded. All alive. Hana felt something ease in her chest. Tell Private Dong Hyun he did well. Get him to medical, and put him back in rotation as soon as he can walk. More reports came in. The humans had established a defensive perimeter around the industrial sector. Vakthor probes were being repelled, with minimal ammunition expenditure. The evacuation of civilians had begun. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Tarvin contacted her on the command channel. Major Hana, this is Fleet Command. Your performance has exceeded expectations. How long can you hold? Minus leaders. 12 hours, Commander. As promised. The Vakthor numbers are growing. Our estimates were incorrect. There may be more than we thought. Understood. We will hold. Her voice was steady, calm. Like she was discussing routine patrol duty instead of a desperate battle against impossible odds. Tarvin found himself respecting this small human with her calculated eyes. Fleet Command out, he said. Hana turned to Sergeant Taemin. Get me Lieutenant Minji. I want heavy weapons positioned at grid coordinates Delta 7 and Delta 9. If the Vakthor are bringing more forces, we need to be ready. Already done, Major. I positioned them 10 minutes ago. She almost smiled. Good initiative, Sergeant. We have been fighting a long time, ma'am. We know what comes next, and that was the thing. Tarvin realized as he watched from orbit. These humans were not lucky, or foolish. They were experienced. They had fought before. They had learned how to survive, and now they were applying those lessons against an enemy they had never faced. The second wave of Vakthor came an hour later. This time there were thousands. The second wave came like a living tide. Vakthor warriors poured from every tunnel and building in the colony. Their screams filled the air. From orbit, the drone feeds showed 3,000 creatures converging on the human positions. Maybe more. The numbers kept climbing. Major Hana watched her displays and felt no fear. Fear was not useful. She had known this moment would come. The Vakthor had tested them with small probes. Now they were bringing real force. All units, fall back to secondary positions, she ordered. Execute retreat pattern Gamma 4. Move now. The human soldiers withdrew from their forward positions in perfect order. They did not run. They moved from cover to cover, still firing, still killing. Buildings that they abandoned erupted in flames as preset explosives detonated. The Vakthor rushed into the trap and died by the hundreds. Lieutenant Minji coordinated the retreat from her position on the eastern flank. She was 26 years old, small even for a human. But her voice over the radio was steady and clear. Second squad, pull back through Building 7. Third squad, provide covering fire. Fourth squad, prepare to collapse the road on my mark. The Vakthor pressed forward, sensing victory. They climbed over their own dead, driven by instinct and hunger. But the humans had prepared for this. Every street was rigged with explosives. Every building was a death trap. Every retreat led the Vakthor into a new killing field. Minji waited until the creatures filled the intersection below her position. Then she spoke one word. Now. The road exploded. 50 Vakthor vanished in fire and debris. The blast wave shattered windows for 3 blocks. When the smoke cleared, a crater 5 meters deep blocked the street. Good work, Hana said on the command channel. Continue the withdrawal. Phase 2 positions. Commander Tarvin watched this unfold with growing amazement. The humans were not defending. They were conducting a fighting retreat. Using the colony itself as a weapon, every building they abandoned was destroyed. Every street they left became impassable. The Vakthor were advancing, but they were paying a terrible price for every meter of ground. They are trading space for time, his tactical officer observed. Classic strategy. But executed perfectly, Tarvin added. He had seen many retreats in his career. Most were chaotic, filled with panic and confusion. This was different. The humans moved like they had practiced this 1,000 times. Maybe they had. On the ground, the situation worsened. Coalition intelligence updated their estimates. There were not 15,000 Vakthor on Praxis 4. There were over 40,000. More were spawning from organic pods buried throughout the colony. The hive ship in orbit was pumping new warriors into the battle faster than the humans could kill them. Tarvin made a decision. He opened a channel to Major Hana. Ground Command. This is Fleet Command. New intelligence indicates enemy numbers at 40,000 and growing. I am ordering a general retreat. Evacuate immediately. There was a pause. Then Hana's voice came back, still calm. Negative, Fleet Command. We have 12,000 civilians still trapped in the shelters. Evacuation is ongoing. We will hold. Major, you do not have the forces to hold against 40,000 enemies. This is not a suggestion. Retreat now. Another pause. Longer this time. When Hana spoke again, her voice was quieter but no less firm. Commander, I understand the situation. But those civilians need 4 more hours to evacuate. We will give them 4 more hours. That is impossible. Noted. Ground command out. Khan. The channel closed. Tarvin stared at his console in disbelief. The human had just refused a direct order from a superior officer. She was going to die down there, along with every soldier under her command, for people she had never met, for people she would never see again. She is insane, his second officer said. Perhaps. But Tarvin was thinking about Sergeant Taemin's words from earlier. Those people down there need us, so we go. That was what the humans believed. That was why they fought. On the ground, Hana briefed her officers. Coalition Command has ordered retreat. We are ignoring that order. The civilians need 4 more hours. We will give them 4 more hours. Anyone who has a problem with this can speak now. The officers looked at each other. Sergeant Taemin spoke first. We hold. We hold. Lieutenant Minji agreed. One by one, every officer in the room repeated the same words. We hold. Hana nodded. Good. Then let us make these 4 hours count. Collapse the perimeter to the colony center. Every building is now a fortress. Every street is now a kill zone. We are going to show these creatures what humans do when we are angry. The humans fell back to their final defensive line. The colony center was a cluster of reinforced buildings around a central plaza. Good firing positions, multiple levels, strong walls. Hana positioned her heavy weapons on the roofs and her soldiers at every window. The civilians were being evacuated through underground tunnels that led to the landing zone 2 kilometers south. Corporal Sangwoo worked frantically to prepare the last defenses. He was an engineer, trained to build and repair. Now he was building death traps. He rigged fuel depots to explode on remote command. He wired buildings with enough explosives to bring them down in controlled demolitions. He worked for 40 minutes straight, his hands moving with precision even as Vakthor's screams grew closer. A soldier called out from the doorway. Corporal, they are coming. You need to leave. Not done yet, Sangwoo muttered. He had 3 more wires to connect. The Vakthor were at the walls now. He could hear them clawing at the metal, trying to break through. His fingers worked faster. 2 more wires. The wall buckled, claws punched through the metal plating. Sangwoo did not look up. 1 more wire. Corporal, the wall collapsed. Vakthor warriors poured through the gap. Sangwoo connected the final wire and grabbed his detonator. He ran for the exit. Pressing the button, as he dove through the doorway, the building exploded behind him, taking 50 Vakthor with it. He rolled to his feet, bleeding from a dozen cuts but still moving. Fuel depot rigged and ready. Major. Good work, Corporal. Get to a firing position. The Vakthor hit the defensive line in a massive wave. They came from every direction at once, coordinated by some hive intelligence that the humans did not understand. Thousands of them, all attacking simultaneously. The humans opened fire. Every weapon they had fired at once. Machine guns, rifles, grenade launchers, missiles. The noise was like thunder that never stopped. Vakthor bodies fell in heaps. The creatures climbed over their dead and kept coming. For every one that died, 2 more appeared. Tarvin watched from orbit. His officers stood frozen at their stations, unable to believe what they were seeing. 800 humans against 40,000 Vakthor. The mathematics did not work. The humans should have been overrun in minutes. But they were holding. How? His tactical officer whispered. Tarvin studied the feeds carefully. The humans were using every advantage they had. Superior positions, better weapons, coordination that the Vakthor lacked. But more than that, they were using the Vakthor's nature against them. The creatures attacked mindlessly, driven by instinct. The humans were thinking, planning, adapting. A Vakthor alpha warrior appeared in the battle. These creatures were 4 meters tall, covered in thick armor, stronger and faster than the normal warriors. Coalition forces had learned to fear them. One alpha could break through fortified positions and slaughter dozens of soldiers. The alpha charged toward a human position. Lieutenant Minji saw it coming. She did not panic. She opened a channel to orbital support. Fleet Command. This is Ground Command. I have a target for orbital strike. Transmitting coordinates now. Ground Command. Those coordinates are within 200 meters of your position, Tarvin said. The blast will damage your defenses. Understood. Fire anyway. Tarvin hesitated. Then he gave the order. A beam of concentrated energy fell from space and hit the Alpha warrior dead center. The creature vaporized. The blast wave knocked down a human building and injured 3 soldiers. But the Alpha was dead. Minji's voice came back on the radio, slightly shaken but still controlled. Confirmed kill. Thank you, Fleet Command. Tarvin shook his head in amazement. The human had called in fire danger close to her own position without hesitation. The risk of death from friendly fire did not matter. Only the objective mattered. More reports came in. Specialist Byung-Hoo, a sniper, was positioned on a rooftop 300 meters from the main battle. He had been wounded in the initial assault, taking shrapnel in his side and left leg. He could barely move, but he could still shoot. For 40 minutes, he called in orbital strikes on high-value targets. Alpha warriors. Spawn pods. Vakthor commanders that directed the swarm. He designated 47 targets. Every single one was destroyed. His spotter tried to get him to medical care, but he refused. Not done yet, he kept saying. On the 47th target, Byung-Hoo's voice cut out mid-sentence. His spotter reported that he had lost consciousness from blood loss. Later, they would find him on that rooftop, his rifle still in position, his target laser still active. He had died completing his mission. The battle raged for 3 hours. The humans held their ground. They did not retreat 1 meter. Buildings collapsed around them. Ammunition ran low. Casualties mounted. But the line held. Sergeant Tae-min fought from a ground-level position, his rifle barking continuously. A Vakthor blade caught him across the arm, cutting deep into muscle and bone. The limb hung useless at his side. Tae-min dropped his rifle, pulled a grenade from his vest with his good hand, and threw it into the mass of creatures. The explosion killed 18 Vakthor. Medic, someone called. No time, Tae-min said. He picked up a pistol with his remaining hand and kept firing. Commander Tarvin watched this and felt something he had not felt in his long military career. He felt humbled. These humans with their soft bodies and primitive weapons were fighting with a determination he had never witnessed. They did not fight for glory or honor or conquest. They fought because people needed them to fight. And that made them unstoppable. Tarvin made another decision. He contacted his fleet. All ships. Redirect orbital strike capability to support ground forces. Strip our defensive coverage if necessary. Those humans need our help, Commander. That will leave us vulnerable to the hive ship. His second officer protested. Do it anyway. Tarvin looked at his screens. at the humans holding their impossible line against impossible odds. They are dying for those civilians. The least we can do is give them the fire support they need. The coalition fleet redirected its weapons. Beams of energy fell from the sky like rain, hitting Vakthor concentrations throughout the colony. The pressure on the human positions eased slightly. Not much, but enough. Fleet Command, this is Ground Command, Hana said. Thank you for the support. Hold on down there, Major. We are coming. We will hold. Just destroy that hive ship. Tarvin turned to his tactical officer. How long until we can kill the hive ship? 2 more hours, Commander. 2 more hours. Tarvin looked at the battlefield below. The humans were exhausted, wounded, running out of ammunition. Could they hold for 2 more hours? Every tactical analysis said no. But then, every tactical analysis had said they would fail in the first hour. Maybe humans did not care about tactical analysis. Maybe they just cared about doing what was right. On the ground, Major Hana counted her remaining forces. 231 soldiers dead. 489 wounded. Only 80 still combat capable. The Vakthor kept coming. But the civilians were almost evacuated. Just 1 more hour. She picked up her rifle and walked toward the firing line. If they were going to die here, she would die fighting beside her soldiers. That was what leaders did. That was what humans did. 1 hour remained. The civilian evacuation was almost complete. 8,000 people had already reached the landing zone. 4,000 more were moving through the underground tunnels. Major Hana watched the progress reports and allowed herself a moment of hope. They might actually succeed. Then the Vakthor broke through the final defensive line. It happened at the eastern perimeter. 23 human soldiers held that position, most of them wounded. They had been fighting for 11 hours straight. They were out of ammunition for their heavy weapons. They had maybe 3 magazines left per rifle, and the Vakthor came at them with renewed fury. The creatures smashed through a weakened wall. The soldiers fired everything they had. They killed dozens. But it was not enough. The Vakthor poured through the breach like water through a crack in a dam. Within seconds, they were inside the defensive perimeter. Inside the civilian evacuation route, Major Hana saw it happen on her displays. Her blood ran cold. If the Vakthor reached the tunnels, they would slaughter the remaining civilians. Everything they had fought for would be lost. She grabbed her rifle and opened the command channel. All units. The eastern line is breached. Vakthor are inside the perimeter. They are heading for the civilian shelters. Her voice was different now. The calm, professional tone was gone. Something else had taken its place. Something raw. We are out of time. We are out of ammunition. We are out of options. But those people still need us. So we are going to stop those creatures. Every single one of us. No retreat. No surrender. We end this now. She ran toward the breach. Behind her, every human soldier who could still walk followed. They did not think about orders or tactics or survival. They thought about 4,000 civilians trapped in tunnels with monsters closing in. Sergeant Yoon was among the 23 at the eastern position. He had been wounded twice. Both his legs were injured, one from shrapnel, the other from a Vakthor blade. He could not run, he could barely walk, but when he saw the breach, he grabbed a flamethrower from a dead soldier and crawled forward. The Vakthor swarmed through the gap. Yoon opened fire. The flamethrower spat liquid fire across the corridor. Vakthor warriors burst into flames, their screams mixing with the roar of burning chemicals. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burning chitin. Yoon kept firing. His lips moved, speaking words that no one else could hear. Later, when they recovered his body, they would find a list written on his armor. Names. 27 names. Every soldier from his squad who had died in the battle. He spoke their names as he burned the enemy that killed them. The flamethrower ran empty. Yoon dropped it and pulled his combat knife. He could not stand. So he crawled. A Vakthor warrior loomed over him. Yoon stabbed upward, finding a gap in the armor. The creature fell. Another took its place. Yoon stabbed again. He killed 3 Vakthor with his knife before they overwhelmed him. When they found him later, buried under alien corpses, his heart was still beating. He had survived by sheer refusal to die. Private Sujin fought at the center of the breach. She was 19 years old, the youngest in her unit. She had joined the military 1 year ago, fresh from training. Now, she stood in a corridor fighting for her life. Her rifle clicked empty. She pulled the trigger twice more before her brain registered what happened. No more ammunition. The Vakthor kept coming. Sujin flipped her rifle around and used it as a club. The stock shattered against alien armor. She dropped the broken weapon and pulled her combat knife. The knife was standard issue, 20 centimeters of steel. Not much against creatures twice her size with natural armor and blade arms. But it was what she had, so she used it. She stabbed and cut and dodged. Blood covered her armor, some human, some alien. She could not see clearly through the smoke and chaos. She just kept moving, kept fighting. A Vakthor grabbed her left arm and squeezed. She felt bones crack. The pain was incredible. She stabbed the creature in its eye cluster with her other hand. It released her and fell. Another creature hit her from the side. They went down together, rolling across the floor. The Vakthor's blade arm rose to strike. Sujin caught it with her broken arm and held it. The pain made her scream, but she held it. Her other hand found the creature's throat. She squeezed and did not let go. The Vakthor thrashed and cut at her. She felt her armor crack, felt blades pierce her side. She kept squeezing. The creature's movements slowed, then stopped. Sujin pushed the corpse off her and tried to stand. Her legs would not work. Everything hurt. More Vakthor came. She could not run. She could barely move. So she grabbed a piece of broken metal from the ground and waited. If she was going to die, she would die fighting. 11 Vakthor died trying to kill her. 11. When the other human soldiers finally reached that corridor and cleared it, they found her buried under a pile of alien bodies. They thought she was dead. Then one of the corpses moved. Sujin pushed her way out. Still breathing. Still holding her piece of metal. More coming? She asked. No, we secured the breach. Good. She collapsed. Commander Tarvin watched this battle through the drone feeds and could not speak. He had seen many brave acts in his career. He had witnessed heroic last stands and glorious sacrifices. But this was different. These humans were not being heroic. They were not seeking glory. They were simply refusing to fail. The combat footage showed things that should not be possible. Soldiers fighting with broken bones and mortal wounds. Soldiers using improvised weapons when their rifles failed. Soldiers advancing when they should be retreating. 53 humans against 4,000 Vakthor warriors. And the humans were winning. Major Hana reached the breach 15 minutes after it opened. She found her soldiers had already pushed the Vakthor back. Bodies lay everywhere. The corridor was painted with blood and burns and broken equipment. Her people stood among the carnage, reloading whatever weapons they could find, tending their wounded, preparing for the next wave. She had expected to find desperation and panic. Instead, she found something else. Anger. Pure, focused anger. These soldiers had spent 11 hours protecting civilians they never met. They had watched friends die. They had suffered wounds and exhaustion and terror. And then the enemy had broken through, threatened the people they were protecting. The humans were done being patient. They were done being professional. Now, they were simply furious. Major, Sergeant Tayman reported. His useless arm hung at his side, but his good hand held a rifle steady. The breach is sealed. Vakthor are falling back. Casualties? Everyone in this corridor is wounded. 3 dead, but we held. Captain Jaewon's voice came over the command channel. He had been coordinating from orbit, but now his voice had changed. Ground command? This is Captain Jaewon. I am coming down. Negative, Captain. Your position is command and control. You are needed on the ship. The second officer can handle the ship. I am coming down. Captain, that is not protocol. I am aware. Jaewon's voice was cold and hard. My soldiers are dying on that planet. I will stand with them. Captain out. 20 minutes later, Jae-won's shuttle landed at the human command post. He walked out wearing combat armor and carrying a rifle. He did not speak to anyone. He simply walked to the firing line, found a position, and began shooting. The human soldiers saw their captain standing beside them. Something changed in them. They had been fighting with determination. Now they fought with something more. They stopped thinking about survival. They stopped thinking about anything except killing every Vakthor between them and safety. The Vakthor tried another assault. They came in a massive wave, using their numbers to overwhelm the human positions. But the humans did not fall back. They advanced, 53 soldiers walking forward into an army of thousands. Tarvin could not believe what he was seeing. They are advancing. Why are they advancing? His tactical officer studied the displays. I do not know, Commander. It makes no tactical sense, but it made perfect sense to the humans. They were tired of defending. They were tired of being pushed back. They were tired of watching their friends die, so they decided to push forward instead. Let the Vakthor be the ones who were afraid. Let the Vakthor be the ones who retreated. Private Dong-hyun, his legs still barely working from the tunnel collapse, walked beside his captain. His rifle kicked against his shoulder with each shot. He did not aim carefully anymore. He just fired. There were too many targets to miss. Corporal Sang-woo threw the last of his explosives into a group of Vakthor warriors. The blast cleared a path forward. He kept walking. His rifle was empty now, so he picked up a Vakthor blade arm from a dead creature and used it like a sword. Lieutenant Minji coordinated fire support from her position. Every orbital strike hit exactly where she called it. Some strikes were so close that the heat scorched human armor. She did not care. Kill the enemy. That was all that mattered now. The Vakthor, driven by instinct and hive intelligence, did not understand what was happening. Their enemy should be retreating. Their enemy should be dying. Instead, their enemy was attacking. It confused the swarm. For the first time in the battle, the Vakthor hesitated. That hesitation cost them everything. The humans pushed through the confusion, killing everything in their path. 47 minutes of continuous fighting. The humans advanced 300 meters into Vakthor-held territory. They killed 2,847 Vakthor warriors. The combat logs would show impossible statistics. Each human averaged 3,200 rounds fired. Most soldiers burned through their entire ammunition supply in under an hour. When they ran out of bullets, they used grenades. When they ran out of grenades, they used whatever they could find. 17 humans died in that advance. The rest collapsed from exhaustion, wounds, and blood loss. Not one retreated. Not one surrendered. Not one gave up. Until they could no longer physically fight. Captain Jae-won was among the wounded. A Vakthor blade had caught him across the chest, cracking his armor. He kept fighting until he physically could not hold his rifle anymore. Then he sat down against a wall and let the medics work on him. Major Hana found him there. She was wounded too, a plasma burn across half her face. 3 broken ribs, but she was still standing. Captain, the civilians are evacuated. All 12,000. They are safe. Jae-won nodded. He was too tired to speak. Fleet Command reports the hive ship is destroyed. Hana continued. We won. Casualties? 231 dead. 489 wounded. 80 still combat capable. Jae-won closed his eyes. Too many. Yes. But we saved 12,000 lives. That is what we came to do. Above them, Commander Tarvin watched the final Vakthor forces scatter and retreat. The humans had broken them. 53 humans had charged into an army and won through sheer fury and determination. He opened a channel to Major Hana. Ground Command. This is Fleet Command. The hive ship is destroyed. You have succeeded. Congratulations, Major. Thank you, Commander. Her voice was tired but steady. Request permission to evacuate our wounded. Granted. Transport ships are en route. Tarven watched the humans begin their extraction. They moved slowly now, exhausted. They carried their dead and wounded with careful precision. Even in victory, they showed respect for those who fell. The Quellan commander sat back in his chair. He had witnessed something that would change him forever. He had seen what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits. And it terrified him, not because humans were violent or cruel, but because they were unstoppable. When humans decided that something needed to be done, they did it. No matter the cost. No matter the odds. He began writing his report. The other commanders needed to know what he had seen today. The transport ships descended through smoke and ash. The battle for Praxis 4 was over. The colony lay in ruins, but 12,000 civilians were safe. That was what mattered to the humans. Commander Tarvin personally supervised the evacuation. He could have delegated this task, but he wanted to be there. He wanted to see these humans with his own eyes, not through drone feeds and tactical displays. The landing zone was organized chaos. Human medics moved between the wounded, working with quick efficiency. Soldiers helped each other to the transport ships, supporting wounded comrades. No one was left behind. Even the dead were being carefully loaded onto ships, wrapped in clean sheets. Tarvin walked through the landing zone. His presence drew attention. Coalition command officers rarely visited ground forces after a battle. But Tarvin needed to see this. Needed to understand. He found Major Hana in a makeshift medical station. She sat on a supply crate, while a medic treated the plasma burn on her face. The burn covered half her face, from eyebrow to jaw. It looked painful. Hana showed no reaction. "Major," Tarvin said. She looked up at him. Her eyes were the same as before. Calculating. Aware. Missing nothing. "Commander, thank you for coming. I wanted to see how your people were doing. We are alive." "That is more than we expected." Tarvin gestured at the organized activity around them. "You are coordinating recovery operations while being treated for wounds? Someone has to. My soldiers need to know their dead will be brought home. You have other officers who could handle this. I am their commander. This is my responsibility." She winced, as the medic applied something to her burns. "Besides, I am not badly hurt. 3 broken ribs, 1 plasma burn, mild blood loss. I can still work." Tarvin studied her carefully. "Major Hana, I need to ask you something. Why did you fight when I ordered retreat?" "Tarvin, why did you fight when I ordered retreat?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because those people needed more time. But you knew you might all die." "Yes. And you chose to stay anyway." "Yes." She met his eyes directly. "Commander, I do not know how other species think about these things. Maybe you calculate acceptable losses and move on. But humans do not work that way. Those were 12,000 civilians. They had families. They had lives. They needed help. So, we helped them. Even though it meant your death? Even then." Tarvin felt something shift in his understanding. "You fight for people you never met. People you will never see again. That is what soldiers do, Commander. We stand between danger and those who cannot protect themselves. It does not matter if we know them. It only matters that they need us." The medic finished treating her wounds and moved to the next patient. Hana stood carefully, holding her broken ribs. She looked out at the landing zone, at her soldiers helping each other, caring for wounded, loading the dead with gentle hands. "We lost 231 people today," she said quietly. "That will hurt for a long time. But we saved 12,000 lives. When I think about that trade, about what we accomplished, I can accept the cost. Not happily, but I can accept it." Captain J1 approached, walking slowly. His chest was wrapped in medical bandages. He should have been on a transport ship already. But of course he was not. He was checking on his soldiers first. "Captain," Tarvin said, "you should be receiving medical treatment." "I will, after my people are taken care of." J1 looked at the landing zone. "How long until we can evacuate everyone?" 2 hours, Tarvin said. "Maybe 3. Then I have time." Jae-won sat down carefully next to Hana. Major, good work today. You too, Captain. Though I'm going to file a complaint about you abandoning your command post to play soldier. File whatever you want. I would do it again. They sat together in tired silence. Two humans, who had led 800 soldiers against impossible odds, and survived. Tarvin wanted to ask them more questions. He wanted to understand how they thought, how they made their decisions, what drove them to fight like that. But another human interrupted. Sergeant Tae-min limped over. His ruined arm was in a sling, but he stood straight. Major. All dead are accounted for. 231. Confirmed. We are loading them now. Thank you, Sergeant. Hana stood. I need to say goodbye to them. She walked toward a transport ship where bodies lay in neat rows. Tarvin followed. He did not know why. Maybe he needed to see this too. The dead lay wrapped in clean sheets. Names were written on each sheet in careful handwriting. Soldiers stood guard over them, showing respect even in death. Hana walked down the rows slowly, reading each name. Sometimes she stopped and placed a hand on a body. Saying goodbye, promising to remember. Tarvin stood at the edge and watched. In Quellan culture, the dead were honored in ceremonies after battle. But this felt different. More personal, like Hana was saying farewell to friends, not just soldiers. She stopped at one body near the end. The name read, Specialist Byung-hoo. Hana knelt beside him despite her broken ribs. You did well, she said softly. 47 targets. Everyone hit. You saved a lot of lives today. She placed her hand on his chest. Rest now. We will take you home. Tarvin felt something in his chest. Not sadness exactly. Something else. Respect. These humans honored their dead. They remembered names and deeds. They carried their fallen home. He thought about his own species. Quellans were warriors. They fought with courage and died with honor. But they fought for glory and tradition and pride. These humans fought for something simpler. They fought because people needed them. Later, Tarvin found Private Dong-hyun being loaded onto a medical transport. The young soldier's legs were bandaged, and he looked pale from blood loss. But he was alive, barely 20 years old, and he had held a tunnel against 200 enemies. Private, Tarvin said. May I speak with you? Dong-hyun looked up surprised. Yes, Commander? I watched your fight in the tunnel. That was remarkable. The young human looked embarrassed. I just did my job, sir. You held for 6 minutes against impossible odds. You used 4 different weapons. You collapsed the tunnel to complete your mission. That is more than just a job. Dong-hyun was quiet for a moment. Those civilians needed that tunnel cleared. I had the position and the weapons. So I held it. Anyone would have done the same. No, Tarvin said firmly. Anyone would not have done the same. Most soldiers would have retreated. You chose to fight. Tarvin 7. Tarvin 7. Tarvin 7. Tarvin said firmly. Retreat was not an option, sir. Not with people depending on me. There it was again, that simple logic. People were depending on me, so I fought. No grand philosophy, no complex reasoning, just duty and determination. Tarvin found Private Sujin in another medical area. She was unconscious, surrounded by machines and monitors. The medics said she would live, but recovery would take months. 11 Vakthor had died trying to kill her. 11. She had fought them with bare hands and refused to die. He found Sergeant Yoon, burned and cut but alive. Found Corporal Sang-woo, exhausted but still helping load equipment. Found Lieutenant Minji, coordinating the final evacuation, despite her own wounds. Found every human who had stood and fought and refused to break. Each one said the same thing in different words. We did what needed to be done. People were depending on us. We could not let them down. As the final transport ships prepared to leave, Tarvin stood with Major Hana one last time. The sun was setting over Praxis 4, painting the ruined colony in orange and red light. What will you do now? He asked. Return to our fleet. Rest, heal, then move to the next assignment. You will fight again? Yes, that is what we do. Tarvin was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Major, I have fought in 17 campaigns. I have commanded forces from a dozen different species. I thought I understood warfare. I thought I knew what it meant to be a soldier. And now I realize I was wrong. We Quellans believe we are warriors. We have 4,000 years of military tradition. We pride ourselves on our courage and honor, but watching you and your soldiers today, I understand that we are just soldiers. We fight when we must. You fight when others cannot. Hana looked at him with those dark, calculating eyes. I do not think you are giving yourself enough credit, Commander. You redirected your fleet to support us. You stripped your own defensive coverage to give us fire support. That was brave. That was practical. You needed the help, and you gave it without hesitation. That is worth more than you think. The transport ship powered up its engines. Time to go. Hana offered Tarvin a salute. He returned it. I hope we fight together again, Commander, she said. I hope we do not have to, Tarvin replied. But if we do, I will be honored to stand beside humans. She smiled slightly, then turned and walked to the transport. Captain J1 waited for her at the ramp. Together, they boarded the ship. The ramp closed. The engines roared. The transport lifted off, carrying the human survivors away from the battlefield. Tarvin watched them go. Then he returned to his own ship and began writing his report. 3 months later, that report circulated through coalition military networks. It became required reading for officers. Some dismissed it as exaggeration. Others read it carefully and changed how they thought about warfare. The report described human tactics, weapons, and capabilities in detail. But at the end, Tarvin added a personal note. It was this note that made the report famous. I have fought alongside many species in my career. I have seen courage and sacrifice from warriors across the galaxy. But I have only fought alongside one species that frightened the enemy simply by refusing to stop. Humans do not have natural armor or claws or superior strength. Their technology is not the most advanced in the galaxy. But they have something that no other species possesses in the same measure. They have the absolute refusal to abandon those they protect. Every species calculates acceptable losses. Humans calculate acceptable costs to themselves. They will pay any price, endure any horror, suffer any wound. If it means one more civilian survives, one more person gets to go home, we Quellans accept death with honor. Humans deny death with fury. They fight not because they want glory or conquest. They fight because others cannot, because someone needs to stand between danger and the innocent, because it is the right thing to do. If the galaxy ever faces a true threat, pray that humanity is your ally. They will stand beside you when others retreat. They will fight when others surrender. They will find a way to win when victory seems impossible. And if humanity is ever your enemy, there will be nowhere you can retreat that they will not follow. Because humans do not give up. They do not accept defeat. They simply do not know how. I watched 800 humans hold a line against 40,000 Vokthor. Logic said they would fail. Mathematics said they would die. But they held anyway. And they won. That is what humans are. That is what they do. Remember this when you see them. They may look small and weak, but they are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy when someone they protect is threatened. I will never forget the day I fought beside humans. I will never forget what I witnessed. And I will spend the rest of my career grateful that they are on our side. The report ended there. Tarvin never spoke publicly about the Battle of Praxis 4 again, but he kept the memory close. Kept it as a reminder of what real courage looked like. Years later, a memorial was erected on Praxis 4 after the planet was reclaimed. It listed the names of the 231 human soldiers who died in the battle. All 231 names, carved in stone that would last for centuries. At the bottom was a simple inscription in both human and galactic script. They held the line. 4 words. But those 4 words told the entire story. Tarvin visited that memorial once. He stood before it and read every name. Then he saluted, holding the position for a full minute. Not because regulations required it, but because these humans had earned his respect in a way that nothing else ever had. As he turned to leave, he noticed something. Humans visited this memorial regularly. They left flowers and small tokens. They stood in silence, remembering. Some were veterans of other battles. Some were civilians, but they all came to remember. One elderly human woman stood near the memorial with tears on her face. Tarvin approached carefully. "Did you lose someone here?" She looked at him and smiled through her tears. "No. I was one of the people they saved. I was in the shelters with my children. Those soldiers died protecting us. I come here every year to remember them, to thank them. They would appreciate that. I hope so." She touched one of the names on the memorial. "They gave us everything. The least I can do is remember." Tarvin left Praxis 4 that day understanding one final truth about humans. They fought for each other. Not just soldiers for civilians, but everyone for everyone. That was their strength. That was why they were unstoppable. He returned to his ship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were on patrol. Human soldiers were standing watch. Human officers were planning and preparing for the next battle. And Tarvin was grateful. Grateful that these fierce, determined, unstoppable humans were allies. Because the galaxy was a dangerous place, but it was less dangerous with humans standing guard.